Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the journey ahead. My name is William Thornfield. I'm 68 years old, and I never thought the day would come when my own children would see me as an obstacle to be removed. I'm lying here in this hospital bed, still feeling the stitches from the heart surgery that nearly took me, when Marcus bursts through the door like a hurricane. He doesn't ask how I'm feeling. He doesn't care if the chest pain still cuts through my breath. He simply throws a folder of documents onto my wounded stomach and says, "Sign this, Dad. It's time you handed over control of the company to someone who actually understands business." I look at those papers with a mixture of disbelief and pain that goes far beyond the physical. They're power transfer documents, contracts that would turn me into a puppet in my own company. The company I built with blood, sweat, and 40 years of my life. "Marcus," I managed to whisper, my voice still hoarse from the surgery tubes. "Son, can we talk about this when I'm feeling better?" He laughs. A cold, calculating laugh that I'd never heard come from the mouth of the boy I raised. "Talk? Dad, you had your chance to talk to us during all those years you treated us like employees. We're not your servants." The words echo in the sterile room like gunshots. Each syllable pierces deeper than any scalpel. This is the same boy who held my hand when he had nightmares, who ran into my arms when he got hurt playing in the backyard. "You never gave us a choice," he continues, adjusting the expensive tie I paid for. "It was always, do this, do that, the company needs this, the family needs that." Well, now we're deciding. Sophie and David agree with me. Either you sign willingly, or we'll do this the hard way. My mind, even clouded by medications, starts working quickly. There's something in his tone, an excessive confidence that tells me this isn't an impulsive decision. They planned this. For how long? "And if I refuse?" I ask, testing the waters. Marcus smiles, and in that smile I see all the coldness I hoped never to see in a son of mine. "Well, Dad, you just went through major heart surgery. Your mind might not be functioning properly. It would be a shame if we had to prove that legally." The heart monitor beside me accelerates, and I feel my heart racing dangerously, not from fear, but from a cold rage that's starting to take hold of me. They really think I'm just a helpless old man, but there's something Marcus doesn't know. In my house, hidden behind a painting Eleanor made years ago, there's a safe, and in that safe are documents that could destroy not only my children's plans, but their entire lives. "Let me think about it," I finally say, closing my eyes as if exhausted. "It's an important decision." I close my eyes and let my mind drift back to where it all began. I was 7 years old, standing in our tiny kitchen in Detroit, watching my mother Martha count coins on the scratched table. 3 jobs she worked: cleaning offices at night, serving lunch at the diner, and taking in laundry on weekends. Her hands were always raw, always moving. "William," she said that cold November morning, her voice tired but determined, "promise me something. When you grow up, you'll build something better, something that lasts, something your children will never have to worry about money the way we do." I promised her that day. A 7-year-old boy, making a vow he didn't fully understand. Mama died when I was 17, her heart giving out from exhaustion and poverty. At her funeral, holding her work-worn hands for the last time, I whispered that promise again. "I'll build an empire, Mama. My children will never know what it's like to count coins." I started with nothing, absolutely nothing. After high school, I worked construction during the day and took business classes at night. Every penny I earned went toward my dream. I ate beans and rice for months, slept on a mattress on the floor, wore the same 3 shirts until they had holes. By 25, I had saved enough to buy my first small construction contract. By 30, I had a crew of 15 men. By 35, Thornfield Industries was building shopping centers across Michigan. Then I met Eleanor at a charity gala. She was elegant, educated, everything I thought my success deserved. We married within a year, and she gave me 3 beautiful children, Marcus, Sophie, and David. I remember holding Marcus for the first time, this tiny, perfect being in my arms and whispering, "You'll never want for anything, son. Daddy's going to make sure of that." And I did. Oh God, how I did. Private schools, summer camps in Europe, college funds that could buy houses. Everything I never had, I gave them. Every sacrifice I made was for them. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong. The gratitude I expected never came. Instead, I got demands. More money, bigger allowances, better cars. When I tried to teach them about work, about earning their way, they rolled their eyes. "Dad's obsessed with work," I'd hear Sophie tell her friends. "He thinks money is everything." Eleanor started pulling away too. "You're never home, William. The children barely know you." But every hour I worked was for them. Every deal I closed was to secure their future. The fights got worse. Eleanor accused me of caring more about the business than the family. But she didn't understand. The business was for the family. Everything was for them. When Eleanor finally left, taking the children for half of every month, she said something that still haunts me. "You gave them everything except yourself, William. And now they don't know how to love anything that doesn't give them what they want." Maybe she was right. Maybe in trying to give them everything I never had, I forgot to give them the one thing Mama gave me, the understanding that love and respect are earned, not bought. Now lying here with Marcus's ultimatum echoing in my ears, I realize my children see me exactly the way I feared they would, not as a father who sacrificed everything for them, but as a bank account with a heartbeat. Well, it's time they learned that this old account has been keeping very careful records. The next morning, I'm awakened by the soft clicking of heels on the hospital linoleum. It's Clara Martinez, my assistant for the past 15 years. She's the only person who's visited me every single day since the surgery, bringing flowers, real food, and updates from the office. "Good morning, Mr. Thornfield," she says, but I can see worry etched in the lines around her eyes. "How are you feeling today?" "Like I've been hit by a truck driven by my own son," I reply, attempting humor despite the pain in my chest. Clara doesn't smile. Instead, she pulls her chair closer to my bed and lowers her voice. "Mr. Thornfield, I need to tell you something important. It's about your children." My heart monitor picks up speed. "What about them?" "I've been working late these past few weeks, and I've overheard phone calls, seen meetings scheduled under false names." She reaches into her purse and pulls out a small notebook. "Marcus has been meeting with Harrison and Associates downtown. That's a law firm that specializes in declaring people mentally incompetent." The words hit me like a physical blow. "How long has this been going on?" 3 months, sir, maybe longer. Sophie came by the office twice last month asking about your medical records, your recent behavior, whether I'd noticed any confusion or memory issues." Clara's voice trembles with anger. "She told me she was worried about you, but now I understand what she was really doing." "And David," Clara's face hardens. "David's been the worst of all. He's been calling your doctors, trying to get information about your recovery, your mental state. He even contacted your insurance company, asking about long-term care facilities." I close my eyes, feeling the weight of betrayal settle over me like a heavy blanket. My youngest son, the one who just yesterday sat by my bedside with tears in his eyes, telling me how much he loved me. "There's more," Clara continues. "I found some interesting deposits in the company accounts. Large sums being transferred to personal accounts, Marcus's accounts, and Sophie. She's been using her medical connections to gather information about elderly care laws, about what it takes to get someone committed." "How did you find all this out?" Clara looks almost embarrassed. "I've been keeping records for years, Mr. Thornfield, not because I suspected anything like this, but because, well, I care about you. You've been more of a father to me than my own father ever was. When I started noticing strange behavior from your children, I began paying closer attention." I think about Clara's story. She came to work for me as a single mother, struggling to support her disabled son. I helped her get him into a good school, made sure she had health insurance, treated her like family, Real family. Mr. Thornfield, she says softly, I think they're planning to have you declared incompetent as soon as you're released from the hospital. Marcus has been telling people you're not the same since the surgery, that the medications have affected your mind. And Sophie hasn't even bothered to visit me, I murmur. She's been telling the doctors she's too emotional to see you in this condition, playing the concerned daughter who's too heartbroken to watch her father's decline. Clara's voice is bitter. But I know the truth. She's avoiding you because she knows you'd see through her act. I lie there in silence, processing this information. My own children, the ones I sacrificed everything for, are actively working to destroy me. They're not just ungrateful, they're calculating and cruel. Clara, I say finally, I need you to do something for me. Can you get me my phone? I need to make a call. Of course. Who are you calling? I smile for the first time in days, but it's not a pleasant smile. An old friend who owes me a very big favor. It's time to remind my children that their father didn't build an empire by being naive. With shaking fingers, I dial a number I haven't called in 20 years. The phone rings 3 times before a familiar gruff voice answers. Benjamin Thornfield speaking. Hello, Ben. It's your brother. The silence stretches so long, I wonder if he's hung up. Benjamin and I haven't spoken since Eleanor's funeral, when we had that terrible fight about the will. He accused me of being controlling even in death, and I accused him of being jealous of my success. We said things that brothers should never say to each other. William, his voice is cautious. Jesus, I heard about your surgery. How are you? I've been better. Listen, Ben, I know we haven't talked, but I need your help. Legal help. Another pause. What kind of trouble are you in? The kind that involves my own children trying to have me declared mentally incompetent so they can steal my company. Shit. I hear him moving around, probably reaching for a notepad. Tell me everything. I spend the next 20 minutes laying out everything Clara discovered, every suspicious meeting, every calculated move my children have made. Benjamin listens without interruption, occasionally making those little sounds that tell me his legal mind is working. This is worse than I thought, he says finally. They're not just being greedy, William. This is a coordinated assault. They're building a case against you. Can they succeed? Possibly. You're elderly, you've had major surgery, you're on medications that can affect cognitive function. If they can get 2 doctors to agree that you're not mentally competent, and if they can show a pattern of concerning behavior, they might be able to get a conservatorship. My blood runs cold. What would that mean? It would mean Marcus would have complete control over your finances, your medical decisions, even where you live. You'd essentially become his ward. The heart monitor starts beeping faster, and I force myself to take deep breaths. Ben, I need to tell you something. I've been preparing for this possibility longer than they know. What do you mean? 3 years ago, I started suspecting something was wrong. Marcus was asking too many questions about the will. Sophie was suddenly interested in my health. David was pushing me to retire, so I started taking precautions. What kind of precautions? I lower my voice to barely a whisper. I've been recording conversations. I have security cameras they don't know about. And most importantly, I've been moving assets. Moving them where? That's what I need your help with. I need to make sure everything is legally bulletproof before they make their move. Can you come to the hospital tomorrow? I'll be there tonight, Benjamin says, and I can hear the old protectiveness in his voice. William, why didn't you call me sooner? We're family, for Christ's sake. Because I'm a stubborn old fool who thought I could handle my own children. My voice breaks slightly. And they look at me like I'm already dead, like I'm just an obstacle between them and their inheritance. Well, they're about to learn that the Thornfield brothers don't go down without a fight. I'm bringing Sarah with me. She's my best associate, specializes in elder law and estate planning. After I hang up, I lie back against the pillows, feeling something I haven't felt in months. Hope. My children think they're dealing with a sick, vulnerable old man. They have no idea that their father has been playing chess while they've been playing checkers. Clara, I call softly. She looks up from her magazine. I need you to go to the house tonight. Behind Eleanor's painting in my study, there's a safe. The combination is 3-1547, the dates my children were born. Bring me everything that's inside. Everything. Everything. It's time my children learned that love and respect can't be bought or stolen. But justice can definitely be served. The next evening, David walks into my room carrying a bouquet of yellow roses, my favorite. His eyes are red-rimmed, and he looks like he hasn't slept in days. For a moment, my heart softens. This is my baby boy, my youngest, the one who used to crawl into bed with Eleanor and me during thunderstorms. "Dad," he says, his voice cracking, "I'm so sorry about what Marcus said yesterday. He was out of line." He pulls the chair close to my bed and takes my hand in both of his. His touch is warm, familiar, and for a split second I almost forget everything Clara told me. "I've been thinking all night," David continues, tears starting to flow. "We've been terrible to you, ungrateful. You've given us everything, and we've acted like spoiled brats." "David," I whisper, wanting desperately to believe him. "No, let me finish. I talked to Sophie and Marcus. I told them we need to appreciate you while we still have you. This surgery scared us, Dad. We almost lost you. He's good, really good." The tears look genuine. His voice trembles with emotion, and if I didn't know what I know, I'd be completely convinced. "I want to make things right," he says. "I want us to be a real family again, like when Mom was alive. That's all I've ever wanted, son." "I know, and I'm going to talk to Marcus about those papers. That was wrong. You should enjoy your retirement, not be forced into it." He squeezes my hand. "You built something amazing, Dad. You deserve to decide when to let it go." For the next hour, David regales me with stories from his childhood, memories of fishing trips and baseball games, times when we were happy. He's charming, funny, loving, everything a son should be. When visiting hours end, he kisses my forehead. "I love you, Dad. Rest well. Tomorrow we're going to start over, okay?" "I love you too, son." But as David reaches the door, his phone rings. He steps just outside my room to answer it, and I can hear every word through the thin walls. "Yeah, it's done," he says in a completely different tone, cold, businesslike. The old fool bought it completely. He's practically crying with gratitude. My heart stops. "No, Marcus, he won't sign anything tonight, but I've got him softened up. Give me until Friday and he'll sign everything over willingly. He wants to be a family again." David laughs, a sound that chills my blood. God, it was almost too easy. A few fake tears and some childhood stories, and he's putty in my hands. "What about Sophie?" I hear him ask. "Good. The sooner we get him declared incompetent, the better. This nice guy act is exhausting." "Yeah, I know. After Friday, we can ship him off to that place we looked at in Riverside. Medicaid will cover it, and we'll have everything. Trust me, by this time next week, William Thornfield will be yesterday's news, and we'll be running our own company. Our company, Marcus, the way it should have been years ago." I hear his footsteps moving away down the corridor, and I lie there in the darkness, shaking not from cold, but from a rage so pure it threatens to consume me. My baby boy, my youngest son, who I held through countless nightmares, who I taught to ride a bike, who I walked to his first day of school. He just delivered an Oscar-worthy performance, and now he's planning to throw me away like garbage. They think they're so clever. They think they've outmaneuvered a sick old man. Tomorrow, Benjamin arrives with the contents of my safe, and my children are going to learn that their father has been preparing for this betrayal far longer than they could imagine. That night, as the morphine drip sends me into a restless sleep, the memories come flooding back like a dam breaking. I'm transported to 5 years ago, standing in the hallway of my own home, listening to a conversation that changed everything. Eleanor was dying then, the cancer eating away at her beautiful body, and the children had come home for what we all knew would be her last Christmas. I was bringing her tea when I heard voices from the living room. "God, I can't wait for this to be over," Sophie was saying. "The constant hospital visits, the fake sympathy, it's exhausting." "At least you don't have to pretend to care about Dad's boring business stories," Marcus replied. Do you know he actually expects me to take over the company? Like I want to spend my life building strip malls in Detroit. The real question, David added, is how long we'll have to wait after Mom dies before we can do something about the old man. He's going to live forever out of pure stubbornness. I stood frozen in the doorway, the teacup trembling in my hands. We need to be smart about it, Sophie continued. I'm a doctor. I know how these things work. A few concerns about his mental state, some documentation of erratic behavior. You're talking about having Dad declared incompetent, Marcus said, but his tone wasn't shocked. It was interested. I'm talking about taking control of our own lives, Sophie shot back. He controls everything, our money, our futures, even our relationships. Remember when he scared off my fiancé because he thought Jason was only after the family money? He was right about Jason, David pointed out. That's not the point. The point is that we're adults and we're still living under his thumb. When Mom dies, we're all he'll have left to control. Eleanor knew. That's why she was so angry with me in those final months. Not because I was working too much, but because I had started investigating our children. I had hired a private investigator to look into their finances, their activities, their friends. She called me paranoid and cruel for spying on our own kids. You're creating the very thing you fear, she told me one night as I sat by her bedside. You're so afraid they'll betray you that you're driving them away. Eleanor, you didn't hear what I heard. I don't care what you heard, she said, her voice weak but fierce. They're our children, William. They're supposed to inherit everything we've built. Instead, you're treating them like criminals. Maybe because they are criminals, I said quietly. She turned away from me then, and we never spoke about it again. Eleanor died 3 weeks later, taking with her any chance of reconciliation between me and the children. At her funeral, they played the grieving children perfectly, while I stood alone, knowing the truth. After she was gone, I installed the security cameras. I started recording phone conversations. I began moving assets quietly, carefully, legally, because I knew that someday the conversation I had overheard would become reality. But even with all my preparations, I never expected the betrayal to cut this deep. I thought when the time came, I'd be ready for it. I thought I'd feel vindicated, proven right. Instead, I just feel broken. These are my children, my blood, the babies I held, the toddlers I taught to walk, the teenagers I guided through heartbreak and triumph. And they see me as nothing more than an obstacle to their inheritance. Eleanor was wrong about one thing, though. I didn't create this betrayal by being suspicious. I simply recognized it for what it was. The investigation, the recordings, the asset protection. None of that created their greed. It just prepared me for it. Tomorrow, Benjamin brings me the contents of my safe, and I'll have to make the hardest decision of my life. Do I use what I know to destroy my children's plans, knowing it will destroy them as well? Or do I let them win, knowing they'll throw me away the moment they have what they want? The morphine pulls me deeper into sleep, but even in my dreams, I can hear David's voice. William Thornfield will be yesterday's news. We'll see about that, son. We'll see about that. Benjamin arrives the next morning, looking every inch the successful attorney he's become. Silver hair, perfectly styled, expensive suit, leather briefcase that probably costs more than most people's cars. But when he sees me lying in this hospital bed, his professional composure cracks. Jesus, William, you look terrible. Thanks for the pep talk, counselor. He sets his briefcase down and pulls up a chair. I brought Sarah Chen, my associate I mentioned. She's waiting outside until you're ready. But first, Clara gave me this. He holds up a manila envelope. The contents of your safe. Want to tell me what I'm looking at? I gesture for him to open it. Benjamin's eyebrows raise as he pulls out document after document. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers, audio recordings labeled with dates and names, photographs of my children meeting with lawyers I never authorized, a private investigator's report detailing 3 years of surveillance. William, he says quietly, this is extensive. I told you, I've been preparing. He holds up a particularly thick file. Marcus has been embezzling for 3 years? And you have proof? Audio recordings of him admitting it to David. Bank records showing the transfers. He thought he was being clever, taking small amounts over time, but it adds up to nearly $2 million. Benjamin flips to another section. Sophie sold confidential patient information to medical supply companies. She's been using her position at the hospital to get insider information on upcoming purchases, then passing it to companies that pay her consulting fees. It's all documented. And David has been forging my signature on contracts for over a year. Real estate deals, investment agreements. He's been making financial decisions in my name without my knowledge or consent. My brother sits back in his chair, looking stunned. William, any one of these would be enough to send them to prison. All three together, they could be looking at decades behind bars. I know. Why didn't you stop them? Why did you let it continue? This is the question I've been asking myself for months. Because they're my children, Ben. Because some foolish part of me kept hoping they'd come to their senses, that they'd remember I'm their father and start acting like my sons and daughter instead of vultures circling a corpse. Benjamin leans forward. There's something else, isn't there? Something you haven't told me. I take a deep breath. Yesterday, after David left, I made some calls to old friends, business contacts, people who owe me favors. I wanted to see how deep this conspiracy goes. And they've been planning this for over a year, Ben. They have doctors lined up who are willing to testify that I'm mentally incompetent. They've already picked out the nursing home where they want to dump me. They've even started dividing up my assets among themselves. But that's not the worst part, I continue, my voice getting stronger. I found out that Sophie has been telling people I've been physically abusive to her, creating a paper trail that would justify keeping me away from any grandchildren. Marcus has been spreading rumors that I'm becoming violent and paranoid. And David, I pause, still unable to fully process this betrayal. David has been dating a woman who works for the court system, someone who could influence the conservatorship proceedings from the inside. Benjamin's face hardens. They're not just stealing from you, William. They're destroying your reputation, your relationships, your entire legacy. That's when I realize something, Ben. This isn't about the money anymore. This isn't even about the company. They want to erase me completely. They want me gone, forgotten, dismissed as a crazy old man who lost his mind. I reach for the envelope and pull out one last document. But there's something they don't know about. Something I've been working on for 2 years. Benjamin takes the papers, and as he reads, his eyes widen. William, this is a complete transfer of assets to a charitable foundation, effective immediately upon any attempt to declare me incompetent. Every penny, every property, every share of stock goes to charity if they try to have me committed. They'll get nothing. Nothing except criminal charges for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. I smile grimly. It's time my children learned that actions have consequences. That evening, as Benjamin and Sarah work on finalizing the legal documents, my world comes crashing down. The chest pains start around dinner time, sharp stabbing sensations that make the heart monitor scream in alarm. Code blue, room 314! Code blue, room 314! The next few hours are a blur of medical personnel, emergency procedures, and the terrifying realization that my heart is failing again. Through the chaos, I hear fragments of conversations. Blood pressure dropping. Get the crash cart. Mr. Thornfield, can you hear me? But what cuts through the medical emergency like a knife is the phone conversation I overhear in the hallway. Marcus is talking to someone, his voice carrying that same cold calculation I've grown to hate. No, don't come to the hospital yet. Let the old man stabilize first. Yes, I know it's serious. The doctor said it might be another few days before we know if he'll make it. Listen, if he doesn't wake up from this, our problems are solved. If he does, he'll be even weaker, more vulnerable. Even while I'm fighting for my life, my eldest son is calculating the odds of my death versus the convenience of my survival. The monitors around me beep frantically as my blood pressure spikes from pure rage. Later that night, when I'm finally stable, I overhear an even more disturbing conversation. Sophie has arrived, not to check on my condition, but to speak with Dr. Hendricks about my mental state. "Doctor, I'm concerned about my father's recent behavior," she says in her professional medical voice. "As a physician myself, I've noticed signs of confusion, paranoia, and aggressive outbursts that seem consistent with post-surgical cognitive decline. I haven't observed any of those symptoms, Dr. Thornfield Walsh," Dr. Hendricks replies carefully. "Well, he's been very good at hiding it, but the family has been worried for months. Tonight's episode might have been triggered by stress from his increasingly erratic decision-making. He's been talking about changing his will, making wild accusations against his own children. I want to scream, to tear out these tubes and confront her, but I'm too weak to even open my eyes properly. I think it would be appropriate to schedule a psychological evaluation," Sophie continues, "for his own safety, of course. We don't want him making any important decisions while he's in this compromised state." The next morning, David arrives for what he calls a family meeting. Through half-closed eyes, I watch him pace the room, talking on his phone with someone I can't identify. "The timing is perfect," he says quietly. "He's weak, on heavy medications, just had another cardiac episode. Any jury would understand why we had to take action. No, Sophie's already spoken to his doctor about a psych eval. We can have him declared incompetent within a week." He pauses, listening to whoever is on the other end. "Trust me, after tonight, no one will question whether the old man can take care of himself. We'll be seen as caring children protecting a deteriorating father." "What? Of course we've thought about the will. That's what the conservatorship is for. Once I have legal control, I can undo any crazy changes he's made recently." As David hangs up and approaches my bed, I keep my breathing steady, my eyes barely open. He leans over me, studying my face with the detached interest of someone examining a problem to be solved. "Poor Dad," he whispers, but there's no love in his voice. "All those years of being so strong, so controlling. Now look at you, helpless as a baby." He straightens up and checks his watch. "Don't worry, though. We'll take good care of you. There's a nice, quiet place in Riverside where you can spend your remaining years. Nothing too fancy. Wouldn't want to waste money on someone who won't even remember where he is." After he leaves, I lie in the darkness, feeling more alone than I ever have in my life. My children aren't just stealing my money or my company. They're stealing my dignity, my autonomy, my very identity. They want to turn me into a living ghost, warehoused in some facility while they enjoy the fruits of my life's work. But they've made one crucial mistake. They think tonight's episode has made me weaker, more vulnerable, easier to manipulate. They're wrong. It's made me desperate, and a desperate man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous man of all. Tomorrow, I put my plan into motion. No more waiting, no more hoping they'll remember I'm their father. It's time for William Thornfield to remind his children exactly who they're dealing with. The next morning, I do something that surprises everyone, including myself. I sit up in bed, remove my oxygen mask, and ask Dr. Hendricks to call a family meeting. When he expresses concern about my strength, I look him dead in the eye. "Doctor, I'm dying. We both know that. But I'm not dead yet, and I have something to say to my children before I go." Within 2 hours, they're all here. Marcus in his expensive suit checking his watch every few minutes. Sophie in her white coat, having come straight from her hospital rounds. David with his fake concerned expression, carrying flowers he probably grabbed from the gift shop downstairs. "Thank you all for coming," I begin, my voice stronger than it's been in weeks. "I know you're busy people with important lives." "Dad, you shouldn't strain yourself," David says, moving closer to the bed. "The doctor said you need rest." "The doctor said a lot of things, but right now I need to talk to my children." I pause, looking at each of their faces. "I want to tell you how proud I am of you." The confusion in their eyes is almost comical. "Marcus, you've shown incredible business acumen. The way you've been moving money around, creating shell companies, covering your tracks, it's really quite impressive. Almost artistic." Marcus's face goes pale. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you do. The Cayman Islands account, the real estate purchases under your wife's maiden name, the consulting fees from companies that don't actually exist, $2 million over 3 years. Very creative. I turn to Sophie. And you, sweetheart. Using your medical license to sell patient information, creating fake consulting contracts, building a network of contacts willing to testify about my mental state. Your mother would be so proud of how you've used your education. Sophie's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air. And David, my baby boy, forging my signature, dating someone in the court system to influence my conservatorship case, coordinating with your siblings to have me declared incompetent. The planning, the coordination, it's like watching a masterclass in manipulation. David takes a step backward. Dad, you're not thinking clearly. The medications. Are you recording this conversation, David? Because I certainly am. I reach under my pillow and pull out a small digital recorder, just like I've been recording all of our conversations for the past 3 years. The silence in the room is deafening. You see, children, your old man isn't as senile as you thought. I know about the lawyers you've hired, the doctors you've bribed, the nursing home you've picked out for me. I know about the will contest you're planning and the conservatorship proceedings you've initiated. Marcus finds his voice first. You can't prove any of this. I smile, and for the first time in weeks it's genuine. Actually, I can. Bank records, audio recordings, photographs, witness statements, I have everything. Benjamin has been very thorough. Uncle Ben? Sophie whispers. Oh yes, your uncle and I have reconciled. Funny how family comes together when there's a real crisis. He's been helping me prepare for this moment for weeks. I press the call button, and within moments Benjamin walks into the room, followed by Sarah Chen and 2 men I don't recognize. Children, I'd like you to meet Detective Morrison and Agent Phillips from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. They've been very interested in your activities. David makes a move toward the door, but one of the officers steps in front of him. I want you to know, I continue, my voice growing stronger with each word, that every penny you stole, every document you forged, every lie you told, it's all been documented. You're not just losing your inheritance, you're going to prison. But more importantly, I say, looking at each of them in turn, you're losing something you never valued until it was gone. You're losing your father, because as of today, I have no children. Clara Martinez, who has shown me more love and loyalty than the 3 of you combined, is now my sole heir. Marcus lunges toward my bed, but the officers restrain him. You can't do this. We're your family. No, I say quietly. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't conspire to destroy each other. Family doesn't stand in hospital hallways planning each other's demise. You have the right to remain silent, I hear Detective Morrison saying as he places handcuffs on Marcus. As they're led away, Sophie turns back to me one last time. Dad, please, we can fix this. We can be a family again. We could have been a family if you had chosen love over greed. Now it's too late. The room falls silent, except for the steady beeping of my heart monitor. Benjamin approaches my bed. How do you feel, William? Like I can finally rest. Taku, 3 months later, I'm sitting in my study at home, finally strong enough to walk without assistance, watching the autumn leaves fall outside my window. The same window where I used to watch my children play in the backyard, back when their laughter filled this house with joy, instead of the silence that surrounds me now. Clara brings me my afternoon tea, the way she has every day since I came home from the hospital. She's moved into the guest room to help with my recovery, and honestly, she's been more family to me in these past months than my own children were in years. The lawyer's called, she says gently, settling into the chair across from me. The plea bargains have been finalized. I nod, having expected this day would come. Tell me. Marcus got 8 years for embezzlement and fraud. Sophie lost her medical license and got 5 years for selling confidential information. David got 6 years for forgery and conspiracy. 8, 5, and 6 years. That's how much my children's freedom was worth. Less time than it took me to build the company they tried to steal. Any word from them? Clara hesitates. Sophie's lawyer sent a letter. She wants to see you. And the others? Marcus is appealing his sentence. David, she pauses. David's wife filed for divorce. She's taking the kids, my grandchildren. I haven't seen them since this all began. They're probably being told their grandfather is a mean old man who sent their father to prison. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's what I've become. Mr. Thornfield, Clara says softly, you did the right thing. Did I? Sometimes I wonder if I should have just let them have the money. Maybe Eleanor was right. Maybe I created this whole mess by not trusting them. No, Clara's voice is firm. What they did to you was unforgivable. You gave them everything, and they repaid you with betrayal and cruelty. They made their choices. I think about that word, choices. I made choices too. I chose work over family dinners. I chose providing over presents. I chose to give them things instead of teaching them values. Maybe if I had made different choices, we wouldn't be here. But then I remember David's voice on that phone call. William Thornfield will be yesterday's news. I remember Marcus throwing those papers on my hospital bed while I was still recovering from surgery. I remember Sophie conspiring with doctors to have me declared incompetent. Those weren't the actions of children who felt neglected. Those were the actions of people who had lost their humanity somewhere along the way. There's something else, Clara says, reaching into her purse. This came in today's mail. She hands me a small envelope with shaky handwriting. Inside is a crayon drawing of a stick figure man with grey hair, standing next to a smaller stick figure with the words, "I miss you, Grandpa," written in a child's careful letters. It's from Emma, David's 8-year-old daughter, my granddaughter who used to beg me to read her bedtime stories when she visited. For the first time in months, tears come to my eyes. Real tears, not the bitter ones I've shed over my children's betrayal, but tears of love and loss and regret. She doesn't understand why I can't see her anymore, I whisper. Maybe someday you can explain it to her when she's older, when she can understand that sometimes adults make terrible mistakes. I fold the drawing carefully and put it in my shirt pocket, close to my heart. This little girl still loves me, even though her father painted me as a villain. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the legacy that matters. The doorbell rings, and Clara goes to answer it. When she returns, her face is troubled. "It's Sophie," she says quietly. "She's out on bail, pending sentencing. She wants to talk to you." Through the window, I can see my daughter standing on the front porch where she used to wait for the school bus. She looks older, broken, nothing like the confident doctor who walked into my hospital room months ago. What should I tell her? I close my eyes and think about forgiveness, about second chances, about what Eleanor would want me to do. But then I remember the cold calculation in Sophie's voice as she described my erratic behavior to the doctor, the way she was willing to destroy my reputation to get what she wanted. "Tell her," I say finally, "that William Thornfield died in that hospital room, and the man who survived doesn't have any children. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. Some choices can't be undone. My children made their decision when they chose greed over love. Now I've made mine.